Good morning everybody and welcome. My name is Ian Fletcher and I'm here with Kevin Igoe from PFP, and we're talking about tax investigations, the latest findings. Good morning Kevin.
Good morning Ian, good morning everybody.
Welcome to this webinar. We're going to be here for about an hour. So Kevin, we're going to talk about the latest findings for tax investigations. What's happening out there?
Right, what we're going to look at is what we're seeing actually at the coalface at the moment with HMRC. Things are getting tough out there, there's no doubt about it. The revenue are continually blurring the lines between tax evasion and tax avoidance. And despite George Osborne's comments and various other MPs, the fact of the matter is tax avoidance is not illegal in any way, shape or form. Tax evasion is. But the attitude of the revenue very much is one of really a very aggressive approach. And what I want to go through this morning is a number of areas where the revenue are attacking clients and our defences against them. So it's going to be a very practical webinar. I hope you're all going to get something from it. So the information powers, let's turn to those first with HMRC. Now, some of these things I would hope would be a refresher to people. Some won't be, some will be new. There's no harm in repeating. So HMRC has the power to require a person to provide information or documents which are reasonably required to check a person's tax position. Now, reasonably required is your major defence, your first line of defence in many cases for revenue requests. Now, being reasonably required doesn't actually just extend to providing information or documents, it extends to providing attendance at a meeting. Where a meeting happens, these things all have to be reasonably required. You should no longer be providing anything to the revenue of any description unless you're absolutely sure why it is they want it. So let's take a look at what is reasonably required then. Information can only be reasonably required where it could affect a person's tax position. If having the information couldn't affect a person's tax position now or in the future, it's not reasonable to require it. Now there's the key there, it's got to be reasonably required. You see the words there on the screen, now or in the future. Now if the inspector's asking for information because he says it could affect your tax position in the future, or your client's tax position in the future, you should be going back to him and saying, well, how? If he says, well, I don't know, but it might, well, that's not good enough. He's got to have a specific reason. And as I said earlier, it's not just information. If an inspector, for example, wants to come and visit your client or your client's premises and you want them to come and visit you in your offices, the inspector has to say and explain to you why it's reasonably required that he attends the business premises. Now, let's quickly look at the defunct business record checks. The reason I'm going through these is that, firstly, there are some that are still live, even though they cancelled it, I think it was a couple of months ago now. What they were and are is a real-time record-keeping review. They were going into businesses, looking at the books and records, and they were really looking for possible cash extraction routes to make sure the records were robust. They said that there would be no penalties. Having said that, they also said that they wanted to raise an extra £600 million worth of extra tax. And this is the major reason why the business record checks are now defunct, is that they weren't raising that tax. Let's look at the single compliance process. This is another revenue pilot. Now this is important because it looks like this is going to be the revenue's major approach to investigations for the coming years. Although it's still being evaluated, I predict with some certainty that it will be implemented. So HMRC's aim to improve the quality and consistency of our inquiry work by adopting a more collaborative approach with businesses and their agents, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of our workforce, reducing unnecessary delays and focusing solely on the aspects we need to. Well, that all sounds very good, doesn't it? Now I spoke to the senior revenue inspector who was in charge of this, one of those inspectors in charge of this initiative, and he was very clear, and in fairness to him, he made no bones about it. This is about more cost-effective investigations. And what I would say to you all is cost-effectiveness rubs both ways.